going to extend a very warm welcome this morning. It's not too cold where I am. Hopefully that's the same where you all are. Just like to welcome you to this Money Guider Scotland Network event. This could be the first event you've attended with the Scotland Network, or maybe you've been to several. Either way, you're very, very, very welcome here. If I'm an unfamiliar face, my name is Heather O'Rourke and I am the Money Guider Scotland Network Manager, and I work for Money Advice Scotland, Scotland's money charity. So we facilitate and coordinate this network on behalf of the Money and Pension Service. I'll just start with a little bit of housekeeping. You're very welcome to take notes because there'll be lots of information. We have Laura and Sheila here from Trading Standard Scotland, who I will introduce in just a wee moment. You can take notes, however, you will receive slides, any useful links, everything shared within today's workshop following the session, and that will also be a link to the recording as well. You're welcome to keep your camera on or off, whatever you feel most comfortable doing. If you've got a festive jumper on, please do keep your camera on, just so that we can see it. Next time I'll wear a Santa hat, folks, when it comes to December session. Please keep yourself muted until you'd like to contribute, just so we can cut out any background noise that might take away from the presentation. And of course, you can ask questions or pop comments into the chat. We're going to hold questions to come back to after the presentation, because hopefully there'll be a bit of a healthy discussion going around scams and what they are looking like in the scene in Scotland. But if you're like me and you might forget, don't worry, pop them into the chat and I'll take a wee note of them, and we'll come back to discuss that with Laura and Sheila. And like I say, this session is being recorded, so if you don't wish to be included in the recording that goes onto our community hub and our YouTube channel, please let me know by popping a message in the chat or just sending me a wee email. Now, before I hand over to Laura Jamieson, just to let you know that particularly if this is the first Money Guiders event you've been to, Money Guiders is a free self-development programme which is really there for individuals and organisations to learn how to talk confidently about money with their clients and their service users, because at the end of the day, Money and Pension Service would like to help any money guidance practitioner deliver safe and effective money guidance. If you didn't already know, there's over 3 million money guidance practitioners in the UK. So you're very much part of this Money Guiders community. You're able to connect with others who are working in the same sector or adjacent sectors. And you can all do that through the Money Guiders Scotland network. But the programme itself, it offers e-learning, an annual programme of events, and like I said, the networks itself, and there's one in each of the 4 UK nations. So you could very much be a part of the Scotland network as well as the others. I'll tell you a little bit more about upcoming events towards the end of this session, but please, if you have any questions about the network or the Money Guiders programme as a whole, don't hesitate to drop me an email. We can organise one-to-one time or catch up through any of the other channels so you can discover more about what's available and on offer to you. But without further ado, I'm going to hand over to the lovely Laura Jamieson from Trading Standard Scotland, who's going to lead us through this event.
Thank you so much, Heather, and it's absolutely lovely to be here today. And I really liked how you started it by asking colleagues some exciting news, and that's certainly something that I think I'll look to do in the future. Yeah, exciting news. I think just getting everything organised for the festive period. My little boy is 4 now, so it means that he is very much aware of everything that's happening. So it's a really, really special time, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So yeah, it's lovely to be here today. So as Heather said, my name's Laura Jamieson and I'm the Prevention Coordinator for Trading Standards Scotland. And I'm joined here today with my colleague Sheila Campbell, who's our Digital Marketing Officer. So it's great to be here. In terms of today, we'll run through the presentation, but if you've, and at the end, please feel free not just to ask questions, but to share your own stories. You know, what have you encountered? And just it's always good to hear what's happening, what's going on. If there's something you've learned, for example, if you didn't know where to report scams before, hopefully you'll find out something new today, and please do share that with your friends, family, and colleagues as well. And if we go to the first slide, please. So yeah, Trading Standards Scotland. We are the oops. Thank you.
Sorry there, Laura.
No, don't worry. I think, Heather, to be honest, I'm the jinx here because every time I'm involved in a presentation, it likes to skip ahead. So I don't know what that's saying about me. We're the national team. We're delivered by COSLA, the Convention of Scottish Local Authorities, and we're funded by the UK government, the Department of Business and Trade, and we add capacity to local authority trading standard services in Scotland. So our vision is to create an environment where consumers can safely make choices, and our mission is to change the behaviours of businesses and individuals who damage consumer and business interests. And our outcomes are to empower consumers, tackle detriment, and prevent harm. And just to say a wee bit about scams, I suppose, before we begin. So, mass marketing scams is a term used to refer to uninvited contact by the internet, letter, phone, or advertising, and purposefully designed to con people out of money. So scammers try to lure victims with false promises of large cash prizes, goods, or services in exchange for upfront fees, or impersonate trusted organisations looking to claim taxes or donations. And unfortunately, many consumers can find themselves caught up in a cycle orchestrated by the scammer. And we can talk a wee bit more in detail about that too. Investment scams is a really fine example of how this really does work, operate. And unfortunately, as many scams originate overseas, it can be difficult to take enforcement action. So this is why, in turn, prevention and awareness raising is so crucial. And being able to speak to one another, and it just really helps spread that message. Talking is really important about scams to break that stigma, so people don't feel that they've not done anything wrong. It can happen to absolutely anybody. Scammers are very sophisticated and they use so many different methods, and I'm sure everybody here today has certainly come across someone, contacting them, be it to get their banking details, or sometimes it's something as even as simple as I'm not sure if many of you have WhatsApp, if you're using this on a regular basis. I certainly out of the blue get the odd message telling me that they're really excited for the wedding that we've got planned in a couple of weeks' time. The inference with those sort of things is that you'll reply and hopefully initiate a conversation there when indeed there is no wedding. So there's so many different nuances that scammers do to try and earn your trust. Um, Scams became a priority for the Trading Standards Scotland team in 2023. And today I just really want to highlight some of the more prevalent ones at the moment, as well as highlighting our campaign that's going to be running across the festive period. If we can go to the next slide, please, Heather, thank you. Yeah, so investment scams. This is a very, very interesting area, and I think that investment scams, they kind of fall into two categories. There's almost this sort of selling you a lifestyle or selling you that you can enjoy a very, very comfortable retirement. So for the former, the lifestyle, you might have come across this in social media yourself. You may have been added or someone requests to add you as a friend. And you may, when you look at their profile, you see the little graph that shows the money going up and up and up. And again, it's just really trying to encourage you that if you just invest that small amount of money, you too could be living this lifestyle. You could be in the sun, having a great time. Instagram's really powerful for this because of all the images that are used with it. But the other side of that about a long, wealthy retirement, unfortunately, um, many consumers are contacted and they're encouraged to invest in the likes of fine wine, whiskey, art, and they're told that the return's going to be absolutely fantastic. This scam in particular is really quite cunning because it's a continual one. So you've got the initial investment, and then you'll be contacted about storage to make sure that you're storing your property and there's no damp, there's no mold, everything's airtight. It's making sure it's the best possible for your investment for the long-term return. Then you'll maybe be contacted about insurance. And then if you decide, actually, do you know what, I want to release this, I want to take the wine or I want to take the whiskey, you'll be charged a release fee. And unfortunately, if not before then, at this point is when you perhaps think, oh my goodness, this isn't actually real at all. This is a scam. And what we're now seeing is that consumers are contacted by an organization or a company who are saying, well, we can get your money back for you if you just send us some more money. So this circle unfortunately continues. Like I say, so sophisticated, and it's always growing, it's always changing. And certainly with the likes of AI, I think this is only going to get more frightening as we go on. It'd be really good to hear your thoughts on this as well, actually, in terms of anything that you think that might be coming our way. So just to head back to the slide here, so with all the scams data recorded by Advice Direct Scotland, and we'll come on to them in a wee bit more detail later on. This is the organisation that we recommend consumers contact if they've got any concerns about scams. The category of investment scams shows that this is where the greatest detriment lies. So both in total and also on an individual basis. Now, we were asked to contribute to the Consumer Protection Partnership Scams campaign earlier on in the year. So we looked back and we looked into this in a wee bit more detail. And we found that for the period of January 2023 to July 2024, 416 scams had been identified as successful, and that equated to 40% of all scams. So that's all scams in total. And what I should say is, if 416 seems a little bit, you think, gosh, in the size of Scotland, the size of the UK, that's maybe quite small. These are only the scams that have actually been reported. Unfortunately, underreporting is absolutely massive. So for all scams, a 40% success rate. Unfortunately, for investment scams, 62 were identified as successful, and that actually equates to around 85% of a success rate. So there's some real pull factors that make these more attractive to consumers to perhaps think, do you know what, this maybe does seem legitimate. And again, this is something that I've experienced. I've seen account takeovers. So some of my friends on Instagram, they maybe go from posting pictures around their home to pictures of their graph showing how their money's went up, and it's a complete account takeover. Again, trying to build trust. You're then contacted to say, you can be like me as well, find out more here. And it really is just it really is ongoing like that. And unfortunately, investment scams, they do remain the most successful. They've got the highest level of detriment. We've had some cases of consumers losing around £250,000. So it's considerable. You're talking about for some people, this is life savings here. And that can have a knock-on impact on having their own home and what happens there. But one thing I really want to highlight about detriment is everything is relative. £250,000 to one person could be £250 to another person, could be £25 to another person. It's it's how that impacts the individual. The actual total is irrelevant. It's how it impacts the individual themselves. And one of the most striking comments I ever heard was when Sheila had carried out the big Scottish Scams survey a couple of years ago, and one of the remarks was in terms of how much money was lost. The response was, well, it was around £100 or whatever was left in my bank account. So that just shows, the impact that had. And I have to say that I always take these things really personally, because I think, oh my gosh, what did they do? What did they do if they had no money left? Did they have friends and family who could maybe have helped them out? Or what was their situation? So it's really, really quite frightening. Next slide, please, Heather. Thank you. So yeah, online shopping. I really wanted to highlight this just now because well, yesterday was Cyber Monday, Friday was Black Friday, but when I was speaking to Heather and Sheila before we came online here, it really seems like the cyber bargains and the bombardment really starts early November, and I think it runs right through until December. So a real, minefield here for consumers who maybe are shopping online. And, highlighting there that new figures from the National Cybersecurity Centre suggest that over 11.5 million was lost to online criminals between November 2023 and January 2024. Just a horrendously high figure. And, you might think that you're really confident about online shopping, but there's so many different nuances to look out for. 63% of scams reported during last year's festive season began in social media platforms or online marketplaces. I'll admit myself, um, I do get drawn in when I see the advert. Again, it's these rich pictures showing you, what's for sale and there's maybe 20% off. And I need to, temper myself and thinking, just take your time. And do I really need to be buying this? Is this just something that I'm going to order? And if indeed it is legitimate, do I actually need it? Is it required for presents or whatever? Unfortunately, the ongoing cost of living pressures have meant that more people are experiencing these scams. And like I said, many of these online shopping scams begin in social media. It's the adverts offering products and services at cheap prices. And like I said, unfortunately, there's certainly quite a fair few of these doing the rounds at the moment. Um, and the aim, especially with the likes of the social media, is to encourage consumers to click through to a scam website, where they'll usually be asked to enter their contact and bank details to purchase a product that's usually non-existent. And we actually have some colleagues, their family members have been affected by this in the past as well. Again, it's the real sophistication of it where it looks really legitimate. So shopping safely online, what to keep in mind. And Heather said we'll circulate the slides, but if you'd like any other information for this as well, please do let me know. So really just be wary when buying products from unknown websites or sellers, particularly if they're advertised at a price that is significantly cheaper than on official websites. That's certainly one that I'm always on the lookout for. And I like to double check what it actually means. And this is even through perhaps legitimate sites on social media who may be promoting a particular product. But when you actually go in to look at the product in more detail, you look at the price of it and you think, that does seem very reasonable for that. And when you look at the online reviews of it, you see that perhaps there's a reason why it's maybe not as the usual price perhaps would be. I was actually looking at, it was a selection of lovely 4 lip glosses, mini ones for my cousin. And I thought, oh, that looks absolutely gorgeous. Like I say, I saw it on social media through a legitimate site that I do follow. But when I actually delved a little deeper, some really negative reviews saying that the gloss was half full, one had burst open. And while it was really, really significantly cheaper than what it would be to buy the full size products, it really put me off buying it because, again, I, would have felt let down providing that for my cousin. And it wasn't basically what it said it was going to be like. If you have one, please try and pay by credit card or a secure online payment system for stronger protection. And do be suspicious if a seller will only accept payment via bank transfer. As I said there as well, check independent reviews of the seller on official websites rather than relying on reviews hosted on the website itself. What are they saying? And we'll touch on a wee bit more on fake reviews as well as part of this session. And make sure you've got contact information for the seller in case something goes wrong. The website should list a valid return address and contact details, and be suspicious if a UK website has a returns address overseas, and check that the address is listed with Companies House. check the site's return policies and terms and conditions, and if buying online through a marketplace, check the site's advice section to find out what to do if items are faulty or not delivered. And also look out for spelling or grammatical mistakes, as well as poor quality images, as this could mean that the website or store is actually a scam. It's really quite interesting because I was asked to join the Electrical Safety First conference down in London a couple of weeks ago to host a session with colleagues from the likes of eBay and Amazon, the British Toy and Hobby Association, and the Office of Product Safety and Standards. And this was certainly something that come up there. eBay and Amazon are really keen to hear if there's illegitimate goods being sold in their site, and they do what they can to remove these as soon as they possibly can, and to make sure that consumers do have a safer shopping experience. Are very much committed to doing that. eBay is it's an astonishingly huge website. The size of it, they've got billions of products listed, so it certainly is a challenge. But yeah, there is that commitment there to make a safer shopping environment for consumers. And just in terms of buying electrical products safely online, this is really just building on the likes of shopping with eBay, shopping with Amazon. Online shoppers, you are urged to be cautious when shopping, which found through one of their studies that 75% of electrical heaters that were bought on TikTok and Temu were actually unsafe and could pose a danger for anybody using them. And Electrical Safety First, they investigated electrical goods being sold in 5 leading online marketplaces and found more than 50 listings of unsafe household products. So if you can, try and buy from, a legitimate trader, a known website, and just take your time to research. Some of these products are quite pricey as well, so to make sure that you're not losing money, um, always just take your time when you're doing any online shopping. If we can go to the next slide, please, Heather. And again, just really wanted to highlight fake reviews as yeah, an issue that is really, it's across the board really with trading standard, which we face as part of the national team, because not only do we look at scams, we also cover the likes of doorstep crime, and illicit trade, and the mis-selling of energy efficiency measures. And fake reviews is a really, really big part of this, where it sort of tries to lull consumers into a false sense of security, where they think, well, all these consumers are saying this is great, surely they can't all be wrong. So we certainly find that quite consistently. And you can see there's a lot of similarities in some of the glowing 5-star reviews, specifically for the companies that are pretty questionable. So according to a study by National Trading Standards, 67% of those using online reviews are more likely to buy a product or service if it's got a 5-star rating. It is attractive, and if you're reading it and it does sound good, I'm guilty of this as well. And I mean, I even use, when you're using the likes of TripAdvisor, it's, it really can sway your judgment into what you want to go for. And last year, UK shoppers bought almost 80 million items based on positive online reviews, which is just astonishing. Fake online reviews are estimated to potentially influence 23 billion of UK consumer spending every year, and many of the consumer surveyed said they felt deceived, conned and tricked after making their purchase. Unfortunately, only realizing that it was, too late to change their mind. So how to avoid, again, it's about looking at what the reviews are saying and how they're illustrated. So the timing and spacing of them. So check for multiple similar reviews that have been uploaded within a few minutes or hours. Have a look at the reviewer's history. And if the account has been recently activated or has only reviewed a narrow range of products, this really could indicate that it's perhaps suspicious. If there's maybe vague language, so legitimate reviews will often be personal and specific to the individual's experience of using the item, whilst the fake ones are more likely to be like, oh, buy this product, it's awesome, it's amazing, but there's nothing really substantive about it. and look beyond the star rating. Whilst 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5 can be a good indicator of quality, don't go by that alone. Take the time to review and always check them against the top tips as well. And if we can move on to the next slide, please, Heather. And this is our Christmas campaign, the A to Z of Scams. So it launched on the 1st of December and it runs till the 26th of December. A different letter for each day. Is This is the third year that this campaign has run, and we're really, really proud of it. Sheila's done an amazing job developing this. It's so comprehensive. And so scammers are continuing to attempt to exploit people's anxieties around the rising cost of living. You've seen yourselves lately, although there's a price cap, the costs are still, it's still so high. They're targeting people online via cold calls, emails, and text messages. It's all about getting personal details and bank account information. And like I said, each letter focuses on a different scam or issue that's perhaps likely to affect consumers. Um, so as you can see here, the 1st of December started off with Amazon scams, following on with bank scams, cold callers, to delivery scams, energy scams. We really just try to be as encompassing as possible with this. And at the end, I've got a wee link to our website as well, where it can take you and gives you more detail on this. As well as please follow us on social media, because just to have it tells you how to avoid the scams and what the scammers might commonly say. We're also, as you can see there, the letter K, know your rights. We're going to be doing a campaign in the new year about consumer rights, and just so consumers know what to do, know when to complain and what to complain about as well. And one of the things that we're going to be touching upon with that is the likes of, thank you, Heather, um, is the likes of banned practices, so aggressive sales practices, particularly when it comes to cold callers. If someone's not willing to leave your home and they're staying in your house for as long as possible before you sign and agree to what they're selling. We're looking forward to launching that, and it would be really great to have your support with that too. Um, but yeah, I mean, for me, and to help develop our work further, it would just be really good to hear, and we're almost at the end of the presentation, but it would really be good to hear the sort of scams that you've encountered, how you reacted to them, and please feel free if you're not confident, if you can keep your camera off. It's just would be really good to hear your views of this, please. And if we can go to the next slide, please, Heather. Thank you. And reporting scams, why and where. So we recommend that consumers contact Advice Direct Scotland. They have their website, they have a helpline as well, and we can circulate the details of that later. And they also have a link to their Scam Watch reporting page too, where you can report a scam. And you might think, oh, well, I wasn't caught out here, I didn't lose any money, why should I report? The main reason for reporting is if we're able to get an understanding of what's currently happening on the ground, we can raise awareness with consumers through our scam share news bulletin, and that's really highlighting new and emerging trends, new and emerging scams that are happening. When we carried out a survey a couple of months ago, we'd ask consumers, have you ever avoided a scam due to having heard about it or having read something about it? And I think it was an astonishing 97% said that they had. So it really is important that we're chatting about it, that we're taking that time to speak to other, our friends, our family, even our colleagues, to raise awareness about this and protect one another. So we'll make sure that the details for Advice Direct are circulated as well. Always handy to have. It's an absolutely brilliant service, and it's completely free as well, which is fantastic. And I've got my contact details on the next slide, and on the final slide it's really just links to our socials as well as our website and how to sign up to our Scam Share news bulletin. But like I said, I'm just really keen to hear your own experience of scams, and what you would find helpful, where you would go for trusted sources of advice, because we're always looking to learn, and we're really delighted to hear your thoughts and really help shape our work further.
I'll open up. I think someone's got their hand up. Susan, that's you. Would you like to kick off with any questions or comments for Laura and Sheila?
Yeah, hi Laura. Your comment about even if you haven't lost money, it's important to report it. And that happened to us last weekend. Well, to my husband, he got a phone call from somebody who said they were from the Bank of Scotland to say that somebody tried to use his. And then they texted a number. They said, just for security, I'm going to text you a number. So you know what the code is. And at that point, he thought something was wrong. He's not sure what he thought was wrong. And he hung up, and then the guy said to me that I've texted, which was a bit weird. So he hung up and he phoned the Bank of Scotland, and they said it was a scam and they cancelled his card. But I don't really understand the scam. I don't, they named a company which were about to take £500 from his card. So sending the code and how that's relevant or whatever, but the bank seem to know about it.
The banks, so I'm sorry, I think it's my line here is a little bit trembly. So your husband received, was it a a phone call,
A phone
sorry,
call,
saying
yeah,
that if I can
somebody
actually
was
just
trying to use his card and they thought it was a fraudulent, because I guess there must be an algorithm, and then if you spend the algorithm, then they alert you. And the person said, for security, I'll send you a code. You need to read it out to me.
Okay.
And I think he must have read the code out, and then then he thought there's something wrong here because the phone went silent. And so he hung up and he phoned the bank, told them what happened. They cancelled his card and checked their account, which is a joint account. But I don't understand, how the scam works or anything, but yeah.
That's an interesting one, Sheila. I've not heard of that one, but I wonder if it's something about just gaining that trust of being able to, that you've got this code here again. It's all about this building that trust element. I don't know what you think, Sheila.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I have heard of ones where, when you get the authentication code from the bank, so sometimes if people have some of your information, then they can try and log in, and that will generate a code. So if they're on the phone with you and the code gets sent legitimately to you and you read it out to them, that means that they can then authenticate themselves and go ahead with the login to access the bank. So I don't know if that's maybe what's happened, but it's good that at least he phoned the bank immediately and they were able to cancel it, because that's really the only thing that you can do. The bank can stop anything immediately after that. But I think the kind of thing we always say is that banks will never ask you to provide that code to them. They won't ever ask for PIN numbers or codes or anything.
Yeah. I mean, I'll encourage them to report it on the scam watch. It was a bit of a strange one. Yeah.
Thanks very much for sharing that, Susan. Thank you so much. I'll come to Aaron Duncan next.
Hi there. Could you hear me? Is the mic on? Yeah, cool. I just didn't know if it was connected or not. So yeah, my name's Aaron. I actually work with international students at the university, and we've been seeing this year more than ever that international students have been targeted by scammers. I'm not quite sure how they managed to get kind of their contact details and things, but the scams seem to be becoming more and more intricate. So an example of one from this year is the scammer targeted a student from Hong Kong. and pretended to be part of the Chinese government, which is obviously a really strict regime. The scammers managed to kind of print off warrants and IDs, sent them to the student, so the student genuinely thought that their family was kind of at risk of being kidnapped, etc. So sent, I think it was over $60,000. And because obviously it was an international account, there's nothing that our police could really do other than kind of try and track the transactions. But the scammers again are also really good at what they do, so they managed to send these this money into like different offshore accounts, making it impossible to track. And then another very similar one that we've had this year was the scammers, they promote jobs, so they put jobs up on Indeed and whatnot. International students contact them, and they manage to convince the students that they're on like commission-based jobs whereby they need to pay their own money first. But by doing that, they give them access to, for example, the Revolut account through their IBS account, and then the scammers are able to move all the money out at once. Again, I can't really get my head around it, but the students showed me the transactions, and apparently it's a thing. Apparently it's something to do with open banking or something.
If I can come in, Aaron, thank you so much for sharing this, and it would actually be great if we could perhaps have a wee chat offline later on, because the team are really keen to be working, and this goes for everyone who's on the call as well. If this would be of interest, please do get in touch. We're really keen to be working more with students, and certainly when we carried out, we had an event at the University of the West of Scotland. It was the Ayr campus, and we had a number of international students coming over, and one of the things we found was that they were absolutely delighted to know that there was a service the likes of Advice Direct Scotland ADS, and the fact it was free. So it's about helping provide that support there as well, but obviously they're experiencing it's just absolutely, this is where the whole scam thing I find really fascinating, because it's really targeted to those it's like, it's not a one size fits all. These are really targeted, and it's the impact that the scammers are wanting to see from that, from what you're saying about the $60,000. So it would be really good to have a more thorough catch up about this if we could, Aaron. I'd really appreciate that.
I'll stick my email in the chat.
Wonderful, thank you so much. But the students are a group, and actually what I should say as well, when we're doing any of our engagement work and we ask, for demographic details, unfortunately, younger people, it's a really limited engagement that we're getting there. And there is some data to show that younger people are maybe, in some instances, given the different types of scams, more likely to be affected by those. So we'd be really, really thrilled to do some more work in that area, and that would be brilliant, Aaron. So thank you for popping your email in, and we can catch up about this.
Sounds good.
Thanks so much for sharing, Aaron, and for the response, Laura. Mandy, you've got your hand up. Would you like to come in?
Yes, hi. I just wanted to share a couple of scams that have happened to me recently. One was like a bank scam, and the thing that annoyed me the most about myself was that I would consider myself quite scam aware, and generally I'm not easily trusting people, and also know the whole thing, never give out your bank code, blah blah blah. And basically I ended up being on the phone for 1 hour with a person, and it started off with trying to remember now. They called and they said, we're calling obviously from your bank, and did you just try to use your credit card and spend £600? And I was like, oh no, I didn't. Oh, okay, well then this is clearly a scam, so you need to what did you say, like reject it or something, is this payment? And then I was sent a code to do that, and then obviously the conversation just spiraled off, and I can't even exactly tell you anymore how the conversation went, but it was so cleverly done. It was also late in the evenings, after 7. I think it's quite a typical time when people are tired and you're kind of busy cooking, like the typical situation. But what annoyed me the most was like literally that I spent an hour on the telephone with them, and it just didn't, there was this feeling inside of me that I kept thinking like, something is not quite right, but they were so convincing, even when I said like, but I'm not supposed to give out codes. Oh no, this is different, because obviously this is a security thing, we're trying to help you, we're trying to solve the issue. yeah, so bottom line was, as I was hanging up, because then often I was like, something is not right here. And I hung up, and then I called the bank straight away, and they obviously said, no, this is a scam. And they could actually see that the people tried to get payments twice of over £2,000. And obviously there was an automated block from the bank, and thank goodness, because that would have absolutely ruined me. So yeah, that was one thing. And to top things off, a week later they called again. It was the same people. I recognized the voice, and they tried the same thing again. And I played along for a couple of minutes. And I was like, do you really think I'm going to fall for the same thing the second time? And then obviously they hung up. So that was very upsetting. And the other thing was more to do with my son. He was looking for jobs at the time and obviously looked at different avenues. He's 19 now. And one thing was a model agency that he wanted to sign up with. And then they wanted a fee of, I think it was £250 or so to do the whole sign up. And obviously they were quite, like talking him into, like, it sounded quite promising. You definitely get work, blah, blah, blah. We pay travel. And then it occurred to me to sort of Google a bit about it, and I stumbled across, and I'm not entirely sure, but I think that a law at some stage came out that model agencies are not allowed anymore to charge fees upfront, because apparently there was a big hoo-ha, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, where a lot of actually model agencies, legitimate agencies, did do that, but it was kind of a scam, but not, because they were actually, they did exist, but what they were doing was not ethical. And in response to that, a law was released and that they were not allowed to do this anymore. And then clearly, I think this agency exists, and I tried to report them. I don't know whether anything was done about it, but they were obviously acting unlawfully. And then another thing was also, again, job ad, very, like, no information as to really what the job was about, just a sales thing, and very easy to get an interview. And my son was literally just about to leave the door, and I was like, hang on a minute, let's actually Google the name. And unfortunately we couldn't remember the name anymore, but when we stumbled across them on Trustpilot, it did say, like, this is a scam. You basically get roped into buying their products up front, giving your own money, and then you have to kind of get rid of them. And obviously it's impossible then. So yeah, bottom line is it all happened in a space of a very short time, and I was so surprised that it happened to me, because I always thought I'm very, very vigilant with these things, and obviously my son as well. And yeah, it just really, really burned me, and ever since then I'm quite scared actually, and realized how quickly these things happen, and how frequently these things happen now as well. And also the other day I got an email, PayPal, I think you're about to get charged £500 or so. Now I'm like, okay, I'm just ignoring things. I'm not clicking on anything or whatever, but it just happens so quickly, and I just feel so angry, because so many people do fall for these things, and it's so important to do the work what you're doing. So yeah, thank you for doing the work you're doing, and it's great that you're creating this awareness about it.
And thank you so much for sharing the job scams. Everything you've been saying there, and it's like they're involved in absolutely everything. Anything they can do to get money, anything they can do to try and elicit cash details from people, they will go there. And you're doing the right thing. You're good. It's about thinking that doesn't seem right, going on and googling it, phoning your bank, getting in touch with legitimate individuals. I mean, my bank account, I've got I'm with Bank of Scotland, and they've just, for what seems to be my account, they will block so many transactions, and then I'll get the text message through saying, is this you? Press Y for yes. But I'm thankful that they do that, and it's interesting because there's some companies that just they just don't allow me to buy from at all. They're like that. No, they're not, even though they seem absolutely perfectly fine. It was House of CB. I don't know if it was where their bank account was established or set up, but there was something that it just wasn't marrying up, and eventually I managed to purchase something through there, but it took a lot because the bank were blocking it for my safety. And I'm sure that many of you have seen now, especially if you are online shopping, you are getting that notification, is this a scam? and you have to confirm that you're quite confident that this is legitimate, you're quite happy to pay for this. I do think as well at this time of year, everyone is busier, people have got a lot on. You may have more parcels arriving than usual. So I often get text messages saying that in terms of delivery scams, that I need to resubmit and all my details because they've somehow lost my delivery address, but somehow they have my phone number, which I always find quite interesting. So I get those sorts of things. I also get, you know, the likes of the Amazon scams. That's a really popular one. I've been told that I've not paid enough postage and packaging and that I need to make a payment so that it can be released, knowing fine well that all of that has been covered. So many different nuances, that's for sure. If I can bring you in again, please.
Susan, do you want to come in?
Oh,
I think you've
yeah.
got your hand up.
Yeah, I had listened to something on Radio 4, and just for clarification, so am I right in saying the law changed this year? So if you are scammed, your bank can't refuse to cover that cost anymore unless you're grossly negligent or you're part of the fraud? And they also mentioned something about a universal phone number, a 159, to quickly get you through to any bank that you're with to report a scam. So
That's right, and I think it's up to 80. Let me just double check because I've got the email up here because I was having a wee read at it earlier on. It is up to, I think, 85,000, but they're still doing a little bit of tweaking with some of this. And one of our colleagues had sent through a story yesterday, saying that some lenders, some banks, might decide to implement a £100 excess on refund claims. So there's a lot of nuances at the moment that are still being discussed. The 159 number, Sheila, have you come across that? That's great if it is a single point. Have you?
I have heard some. Yeah, I think that you just phone that and it connects you
That's
to
brilliant.
your bank.
I think it's 159. I'm with the Bank of
Yeah.
Scotland, and they do block a lot of payments, but I do appreciate it's to protect the bank account. Yeah. But
Yes, it's saying
I
it
think it's
connects customers.
159.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
159.
think
It
was
connects
it
customers of
Sheila Dillon on
99.
Radio 4. Yeah.
Can I jump in
And
just to ask on
yeah.
behalf of Leslie? Do we know if the 159 number is just for Scotland or if it's UK wide?
I think it's UK wide.
UK wide. We've got Alison in the chat saying UK wide. Just to answer your question, Leslie.
So it's really because beforehand it used to be TSB. They would always sort of no questions asked. They would refund. Well, obviously in a bit more detail, they would refund. But now more banks are coming online, so it's going to be quite interesting to hear how this develops. And just to give you guys a wee quick update as well, they are saying that they are going to, let me just find this here. They're going to define vulnerability in terms of this as well, and that's whether they'll waiver the £100 if they do go ahead to charge that. But I don't know how they're going to determine vulnerability. That in itself is quite fraught. So I think we're really in early stages. But as things develop, Heather, if it's helpful and we find out more, if we can share things for you to circulate to the group, if that would be useful.
Absolutely.
We'd be delighted to do that. I'd noticed one of the questions on the Ian, delivery driver scams. So we were expecting a parcel to be collected yesterday, and DPD told us that the delivery driver had been, but there was no answer. This was wrong because we were waiting for him to come. That's interesting, especially with a parcel to be collected.
Yeah, I haven't heard of those ones before, because
Yeah.
that's still a fairly new thing. So I wonder if that's going to be the next kind of wave of delivery scams that'll be to do with parcels being collected rather than delivered.
Ian,
Gosh,
did you want to
that
come in on that? If see your hand is up.
Yes, surely it is. My husband's put his name on the computer, but it is me. And what happened? We were waiting for this delivery driver to come to pick up our delivery. We had a message then to say that he'd been. We were living in a flat, upstairs flat, and we were in the room above the door. So we would have heard him come and seen him come if he was there, but he didn't come. And the same company, DVD, I was waiting for a few weeks ago, I was waiting for a, what do they call them, banner to be delivered. It was coming from West Wales to South Wales. And what happened in the end, they delivered it, but they delivered it to a person in a shop. Our flat is above a shop, and that shop used to be owned by somebody called Vicky. Well, they delivered it. She moved her shop to the centre of town, and they delivered the actual banner to her at the shop. And luckily we found out, because she's a friend of mine, we found out then that what had happened. So I could actually go down and get the banner from her, which I did. Well, I used it, and then I had to return it to the same person in West Wales. And I arranged it, or they arranged a delivery for me, or a pickup for me, and that worked well. They came to the door, they picked it up, and they took it. And yet, same company, probably the same driver, because it's the same area, didn't bother to turn up at all yesterday. So I don't know whether it's a scam or whether it's just genuine. It's really annoying.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, certainly. I think, and this is the problem with the whole delivery area as well. I think because there's such inconsistency with it across the board, it's so easy for the sort of scam element of it to be caught up in that. I'm where I live, I'm East Ayrshire, and I have heard so many bad reviews through, the likes of, so it's Stuart and Voice online, and it tells you about, what's happening with different delivery companies. I've luckily never experienced that. I feel very lucky. And I know the chap who comes from this company, so no issues there. But there's so much. My experience is very rare, unfortunately, and I think that's where the delivery opportunists really can leap in there. But no, that's an interesting one.
Yeah. I was annoyed because when they didn't come the first time to collect the van, to bring the banner rather, I seen the DPD van go up and down the street outside the flat twice.
Yeah. It can be really frustrating, can't it?
You have to pass our flat to get to the shop that he delivered it in.
Yes, yeah.
I'd like to. There was a
annoyed then.
There was a comment from Kelly, just to draw everyone's attention to, from the experience with Royal Mail, and there's a lot of messages that go out at this time of year for people to click with a link to pay for delivery when usually people have already paid for delivery, which is what's kind of been touched on before. So please look out for that and don't click on any of those links. There's a wee message from Kelly. For a lot of delivery companies as well, including DPD, they have their own apps where you can set your, you can provide information about your address, where your safe place is, what neighbour to deliver to, and give a picture of your home, like say your flat or your house, just so the driver knows. So it might be just for anyone, particularly who's doing a lot of online shopping, perhaps if they do have access to a smartphone, to download those apps, because there's extra information that you can exchange with to and from the drivers as well. So that might be a wee useful tip. Thanks everyone, folks. You might have more questions, and that's absolutely okay, because you'll have contact details to ask away or continue the discussion on our community hub. So just want to say thank you so much, Laura and Sheila, for coming on to chat us through scams. Just before I let you go, folks, just let you know that as we're talking about vulnerable people and over the festive period, just a reminder that it can be a very difficult time of year for a number of reasons. So just some signposting, some organisations to be aware of, because this is a time where it can be more prevalent to hear from service users who are struggling with food, paying for energy, housing, homelessness issues, substance misuse, bereavement, mental health, those types of things. So there are some organisations here on the slide that you can see that provide support. A lot of these are out with typical working hours as well. So you can find lots of information on organisations across Scotland that help with these areas of work within our signposting guide for money guiders, which is on our community hub. So if you're not in the community hub, it's a great resource and a great reason to join and access that live document resource. And we'll be sure to include the scam watch links as well. Advice Direct Scotland's on this if you need it, because they do help with a lot of different areas of work, money advice, benefits, consumer rights, etc. So just a shout out, because Laura had mentioned them as a place to report scams. And if you are interested, we've got some great sessions lined up for the for the start of 2025. I hate to say it, but yes, for next year, including our event on the 21st with Cash Access UK. They're going to talk about the role of banking hubs. We've got our actually Sheila and Laura's colleague John Pollock from the Scottish Legal Money Lending Unit. He's going to do a session with us around illegal money lending in Scotland on the 22nd. We've got a few wellbeing sessions lined up, and we've also got a session at the end of February with GamCare, and this is a CPD accredited 2-hour workshop or 2-hour training course, which is sure to probably sell out. All the tickets are free, because all of the events are free, but I'm sure tickets for that one particularly will go quickly. So as soon as it's published and ready to book, I would encourage early booking to avoid disappointment. Folks, if you enjoyed this session, as we do with all of our events, please do let us know by providing us with feedback. The feedback not only tells us how you found this session, and it can share some good, some lovely words to Sheila and Laura, who put a lot of effort into this, but within that feedback form, you can also say what you'd like to hear more about, what events you'd like to learn, or sorry, topics you'd like to learn about, whether that's debt, credit, housing, households, budgeting. So please do take the time. We do really appreciate it, and everything that we do put on is off the back of the feedback we receive. So if you would like to input into the 2025 calendar of events, this is absolutely the way to do that, and I'll pop wee links into the chat. But if there aren't any more questions for the moment, I will say thank you everyone for joining this session. Please do take very good care of yourselves, and personally, if I don't hear or see you until next year, take care of yourselves over the festive period, and all the best for 2020.